Hello, selectors, and welcome to the Life Burst Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew.
Hi, I'm Tiffany, and welcome back to the Life Burst Podcast, a Wixoss podcast where we talk about all the Wixoss things and nothing but the Wixoss things. And boy, do we have some news for you.
It's true. If you haven't seen on the channel page yet, we put out a little community post showing that there is going to be a GP.
Like a real one.
Grand Prix.
Grand Prix.
The first one.
Grand Prix. It's going to be in person. And if you've been a longtime listener of this podcast, you will know that that has been on my Wixoss wish list for the beginning of when I started playing this game.
It's on Tiffany's Wixoss bucket list for the Wixoss bucket.
Or my wish cross list, whatever. Anyways, so we're really excited about that. So today we're going to be talking about the GP, kind of what we know right now and what we're going to do about it. If you guys are planning on going to the GP, or if you're just as excited as we are, please let us know in the comment section down below and subscribe while you're down there.
It's true. It would be good to see your name and then put your face to the name later. So it's a big deal, Tiff.
It is a big deal.
We've got a couple topics to cover aside from the event itself, right? What we are gonna maybe do at the event. Also, what are we gonna do to prep for the event? You and I, like as competitive players, what other players can prep for this event? What can they do? And just also some other general announcements and things. So. The first one is the polls have come to a close. It looks like next week it is Tama versus Tama.
Ooh, I will be playing the control Tama.
Yes, and I will be playing the aggro mono white Tama.
So please make sure that you subscribe and tune in for our next versus match. It will be my first time playing a control deck, so that should be interesting.
It's gonna be Halloween versus Christmas.
It is gonna be Halloween versus
Because you've got the Christmas promo.
Because I have Christmas Tamas.
And I have a Halloween promo.
Yeah, it should be a fun time. And you can also check out some of our other versus videos. What was the last time? What was the last one?
We do it every 2 weeks, basically. Yeah, we do a week of voting where you guys select the matchup, and then a week of us playing.
Yeah.
But this is a good one because you are going to get the chance to really, really do control. I mean, that segues pretty nicely into the Wixoss week. You've been playing control all week.
I have. We've been practicing. I've been practicing with Tama control, and it is quite something to try and wrap my head around. But as I've spoken about in, I think, like at least the last 2 podcasts, I'm still on my player's journey, if you will, just trying to kind of figure out what works best for me, how I want to play. And, you know, that involves trying a bunch of different archetypes. So, the last one that I haven't tried is control. So We'll see how that goes. But,
you're doing good. You're doing good. You're starting to get used to it. Like the whole idea of shields up until you're starting to connect the dots that it's shields up, shields up, shields up, shields up. Unga boonga time.
Yeah. If you guys want to listen to like how we kind of describe the different archetypes in Wixoss, you can check out that podcast as well.
Speaking of archetypes in Wixoss, this is a good segue too. So I am always a data guy for when I'm about to go into a big event, a GP and stuff like that. I wanna look at some of the data and see if there's like ways to take advantage, right? When I got 5th in the ceremony with Nova, I did a lot of data check, and it was like pretty clear that Nova was stacked when you do it, the math. It had almost like a 55 win % rate in when you just do the average across the field. But when you start taking out the decks that people were rarely playing, aka the green decks and aka the virtual decks, which were getting less and less played at that point in Sandbaka, its win rate skyrocketed to like 80%. So it was like weird because like you got to think, oh, what's the popular decks, and does this deck play well against the popular decks? And then you can kind of feel what a weighted win rate is for those decks, and that's what I did for Nova, and it helped me out a lot. So I'm trying to do something similar this time around, and I've gathered multiple points of data. Thank you for everyone who jumped on our community page and also checked out the poll that I posted. It was too big of a poll to do on the normal YouTube like poll because it don't.
Yeah,
YouTube
they
only
kind of
lets you-
limits the options.
Yeah, like lets you do 5, and I had to do like 8 options. But you guys voted on that, and the cool thing is, I think anyone who's voting on from our YouTube channel is generally a little bit more competitive than the average player. Just because you guys are here for like the strats, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave a cool window that's like, what does the more competitive players?
Yeah, what do you skew towards?
What are they likely going to be bringing to a GP? Because a GP is a different meta than the normal meta, right? GPs are always a little bit more cutthroat, therefore they're always a little bit more skewed towards decks that perform over long periods of times rather than like high floor, high ceiling decks, you know. I went and I looked at the Japanese meta at the time, like what all of the Japanese ceremonies were looking at, as well as various GPs that they had during that time to try to skew all this data together. And I'm going to let you guys know what I found in just a minute and sort of help pick my deck for that. But this is something I'm personally interested in. Tiffany, I know this is going to be your first like real big competitive.
I have never competed in person at a card tournament ever. Well, I mean, like, okay, here's the thing. Like, I've never participated in a GP before. I don't even know if we're going to need to do, like, qualifier rounds or whatever. I want to qualify if that's the case. I am going to sign up.
Yeah, here's the deets for the GP that we know so far. It's in Las Vegas, July 22nd. Mm-hmm. Great. Now you're all caught up. That's all we know.
That's really all we know. They put out like a kind of a PNG image announcement, and everyone like all over. We're part of several Discords. Everyone like lost their mind.
Yeah.
I was like, why is my phone blowing up at 2 a.m.?
Still no information as of recording this podcast. But I really want to win. Like I know that's crazy to say, right? People are listening, and there's gonna be like 130 people there also who really want to win. But
I mean, that's the whole point, though. That's why you have big competitions like this. Like,
my goal is to top 8 it, and if I can't, I'm gonna be sad. But that's what I'm gonna try to do. So this is my road to Vegas, baby.
Road to Vegas.
Yeah, and Tiffany, you're coming along with me though. You're not
road to ranked.
Road to ranked. Yeah. You're coming along too.
I am.
What's your goal for this one?
I want to win.
Yeah. See,
Like,
we're all here. We're just wanting to win.
Yeah, like honestly, look, I'm working on my positive self-talk as like a competitive player, but like I just want to do well, really. Like, I want to go there. I want to do very well for myself, and I want to have a good time. You know?
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff for that.
I'm not going just for fun. I do want to win.
We're starting to ramp up. You might find me just chilling around on the card game Discord on what's the other one? The Diva 3v3 Discord, or the Card Garden Discord. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 places I'm going to be lurking a little bit and just shouting out if anyone wants to play games against me. Mm-hmm. Just because I just want to crash games. I just want to keep crashing and crashing and crashing and crashing games until I can get a good vibe for what I want to do. I've got my short list of narrowed down to 5 decks that I want, and I got to narrow it down past that, right? Like, I'm learning a cue from you. I gotta practice a deck.
It's gonna be hard. Like, well, first of all, we are going to be practicing a lot. Like, we already play, like, pretty regularly, but we're going to be increasing that by, like, a fair amount.
Yeah, I will be participating in all the Card Garden tournaments coming up.
As many as you can,
once a week, really. And again, I'm going to shoot a link to the bottom of this to Card Garden if you guys want to start ramping up there a bit. The 3v3 Diva Discord, the thing that we played for our team battles, they announced that they're going to be holding some proxies allowed set 9, which is what the GP is going to be in.
That's going to be one of the things that makes it a little bit more difficult. Is because it's going to be in set 9, and as of this podcast, set 9 has not been released. So we're kind of, like, we're not really building in the blind, but we kind of are, just because we haven't really seen, at least on our end of the map what those cards would do
Yeah.
for the English meta.
We've seen what it does in the Japanese meta, but here's the thing. Japanese meta and the American meta are two different metas.
They are different.
And at this point, we basically have fully diverged from what Japan was doing.
We're variant.
And the polls really paint that picture. Because right in Japan during set 9-ish meta, the best decks in the format were Atomic Deus decks and X aggro decks. And in America, we seem to have this idea that the Esper Tama decks are the best decks, and that blue-black control is pretty shortly under that. That's like more of a Tamago type of deck.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that we see a really strong blue-white presence with black being pretty closely thereafter.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you. But it's interesting because there are still people who are playing X and are really pulling up pretty positive win rates with it. So it might just be a misconception in America that we think that this is the best type of deck, and we may be even what is referred to a little bit as an inbred meta, because we're basically only playing against other Tama mid-range decks. Therefore, we're seeing sort of like this feedback loop happening.
But that's why it's a good idea to go on to like Discords and stuff and try and vary your range of players that you're playing against.
Yes.
Because if we were to like just practice with our local meta, we would not be prepared.
Right.
And that's not to say that like our locals are bad players. They're not. They're incredible players, but it's just that people in our area tend to play different decks than what you might get at a GP, which is going to be a very wide range of things.
So, I'm talking a lot about the meta here, and I'll wrap it up over in a little bit, but meta is not the only thing to consider. It's also you've got to consider the decks itself, as well as what a GP structure looks like. And those are sort of like all the defining factors into your deck choice and your play choice. So, like the meta is not just it, right? And sometimes there's things that happen that surprise everyone. So towards the tail end of set 9, there was a lot of push on blue-black control. And then there was a random spike in green before it just disappeared, and set 10 came out, and then green kind of disappeared again. That green was from Mel, the center that comes out in set 9. And it's because green decks, like particularly green-black decks, really counter discard decks. And just like, that's one of those things, right? Like, we are armed with this information after the fact for the Japanese that we have foresight here in American meta. So I would not be surprised to see a not insignificant amount of green decks that might say, oh, I'm seeing all this 25% of Tama players wanting to play. Let's add that let's fight that with the green decks. But yeah, generally speaking, the in America, it seems like competitive players are leaned towards blue-black control decks and Tama mid-range decks. Basically, Esper decks is what we're calling them. And then we're pretty much secondary in white or red aggro, being firmly after that, right? Like by 15% below.
Yeah.
So tier 1, tier 2 status almost. I don't know if that's true, but that is what the perceived notion is in America.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely subject to change as we get closer to the GP as well.
Oh, and there's a spike of blue tempo as well in America. That is actually equally amount in Japan. It's actually the same amount in both. It's about around 16-15% in both.
And tempo is kind of strong. Yeah. It depends on like which one you're playing.
Aya, mono blue.
Aya is so annoying.
Aya, mono blue, Tamago, mono blue Tamago, and and then the last one is Umir. Sorry, yeah, Umir. So those three, as well as some sprinklings of like red, blue, sort of like tempo decks in there as well. But yeah, there's a surprisingly strong presence. It's almost like a silently strong presence of mono blue tempo. that comes out, and mostly because there's some set 9 cards that really do help, and set 8 cards that really do help.
Yeah, we're kind of looking ahead because we have to. But we always kind of like take some sneak peeks at the upcoming sets.
And then green, like I said, has some Mel stuff that's happening. Mel is probably better than Bang, even though I don't want to admit that myself, It just gets access to some more defensive options. It basically gets souls, which is pretty cool, but it has to pay for its souls, which is less cool for it.
That is less cool, for sure.
But I guess it's green, it can afford it. And then there is there's one other deck that pops up. It's known in Japan as Dash Harana.
Dash Harana.
Yeah, although I think it's probably more apt in America to call it a burn deck.
A burn deck.
Yeah, because it does a lot of direct life cloth crushing.
Oh. So it's not necessarily that it goes fast, as in it cuts down life cloth more quickly.
Yeah, like if we're playing if we're playing like Magic the Gathering type of comparison, it like deals a lot of direct damage to the opponent. Therefore, it's sort of similar to a burn deck in that respect. Mm-hmm. However, it didn't really have a good showing in Japan. It was very popular, but didn't really have a good showing in the GP setup. Mostly because it's one of those decks that have a high floor and a high ceiling, meaning that it can go real off, but when it doesn't go off, it really doesn't go off.
Yeah,
I guess it's a low floor. I don't know. I can't remember the thing, but
you let us know in the comment section down below. You know what we're talking about.
So those are the decks that I'd be prepping against, right? I'd be prepping against some kind of red Enterburn deck, some kind of white aggro deck, some black mid-range deck, some white mid-range deck. And by white mid-range, I don't mean like Esper white mid-range. I just mean like white proactive.
Can you like clarify what you mean by Esper?
Yeah, Esper is white, blue, black.
White, blue, black. And that's the Magic term.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be prepping against some kind of like red mid-range. There was like a couple carnival decks that did pretty well in Japan that are weird.
Ooh, that is weird.
They're like,
I don't like carnival.
Yeah, slower red decks. These green Enter decks, these mono blue tempo decks. Then we have Tama control decks as well as Tamago control decks, and then Atomic Deus. These are the big ones that I would just be like, all right, start playing against them a bunch and see how your decks fare against them. That's personally what I would look at.
Yeah. Do you have any idea of what deck you might want to play?
No clue. I've got it narrowed down to 5, but I'm super not set on any of them yet.
Yeah, I haven't settled either. Like that's what I plan on doing though. Like the one time that I actually did really, really well in one of the ceremonies is when I just picked a deck and I stuck with it and I learned it like front, back, sideways. Like I learned that deck like the back of my hand, so I could be prepared for anything. It's going to be really tough now. The card pool was a lot smaller when I had done that, but I still think it would be really good to kind of settle into something that you really like, something that you really vibe with, and play it against a bunch of the types of decks that we're mentioning. I think that instead of playing like all of them, I think it would be much better to practice against them.
And notice I didn't say any distinct centers there. I'm just talking about archetypes, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things in Wixoss is you're not really going to know exactly what kind of center you're going to play against. Like when you're playing those Enter decks, those Enter green decks, it might be a Bang deck, it might be a Mel deck, it might be a Senga deck. There's really no good way to tell.
It might be a Wolf deck. Yeah. Like, you really don't know. Especially with as many centers as there are. You know that if you listen to this podcast a lot, we have our favorite centers, and I know we're not alone in that. Sometimes your favorite center is just who you want to play, and you don't necessarily care if they're super viable or optimal or whatever. You just really like that character.
I remember, in one of our ceremonies, one of the best Hirana aggro decks was an Akino center. It did all the same things that a Hirana aggro deck did, but just the Akino center ability helped it win the game.
Yeah, and that person just really liked Akino, so they made it work. So it's not impossible to do. Like there are like we'll have like suggestions as to like what we think optimal decks are, but at the end of the day, always play with what you want to play with.
Yeah, and that's something that's worth mentioning. Not even just in America, but in Japan. I've actually started horrible Google translating a lot of like competitive articles written by some of the more competitive
Oh,
Japanese
like
players.
people that have won and gotten
Yeah,
reviewed.
and like tournament reviews and stuff from them. And like overwhelmingly, they all basically say the same thing, which was when you go to a big event, you consider power level of your deck and you consider the meta a little bit, but those aren't the major factors that make you choose what deck you choose, because they were like, yeah, 25% of the meta is just something random. It's something that someone likes to play and that's it. So and you can't really prep for those, right?
No,
those are
you
those
can't.
are those are just going to randomly kick your butt sometimes.
I honestly think that the best way to prep for those is to just know your deck. Because if you know your deck and what kind of situations you can solve with the cards that you have,
Yeah.
that's the best way to prepare against that, because like there's just no way. Like there's so many different deck combinations that you can build now that it's going to be impossible to know what everybody's like center and assists do. But you
Yeah.
can prepare against certain cards. Like there will be popular cards that you can prep
Types,
against.
yeah. Like I said once to someone, it's some like queuing up for a ceremony or a GP for this game honestly feels like you're a marathon runner. You're stretching. You tie your shoes. You look up at the
You, like,
starting line to see who's with you. You see another runner. He gives you like a nod. You see another runner. She gives you like a thumbs up. Then you look over and there's someone dressed up in like a dinosaur costume, and you're like, wait, what? And then you look over and there's like a dog on a skateboard, and you're like, I don't understand. And then you see another person who's like ready to marathon run, and then you look over again and there's a pterodactyl. And you're like, that makes a little sense because there was a dinosaur here earlier. But what is the nun doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of feels like that with this game, because you're like ready for this competitive environment. There's just some people there who's like, I love dinosaurs, and they're gonna play their dinosaur deck. And that's it. And I wish them the best. They probably are gonna do fine, because there's some amount of surprise factor in it where you can get beat by a dinosaur deck and you're like, I don't know how that happened, but yep. So
that was such a journey.
I know, but that's what it's like sometimes. And
It is like that.
The only thing you can do in those scenarios is just be like, okay, I know what my deck does, and I'm gonna try to do it. And I really sort of have 3 rules for when it comes to playing a deck in these big events that I try to abide by for myself. And that's like, can it fight against the current meta? And if the answer is yes, move to the next topic, which is,
This is your flow chart.
Yeah. Does the deck have a plan to win? Like, does it have a strategy? And the answer, like, for example, Tama Control does have that. It's a very weird, vague one, but it's don't take damage until like turn 4 or 5, then
Proceed to win.
Proceed to now push damage. It's discard a lot, and then when they're low on resources, blow them up, right? Like, that is what the deck does, and it is at least a clear line of play for you to do. Decks that are purely reactive or have unclear lines of play aren't great for playing, just because that they're not giving you an option. Because like sometimes you want to answer what your opponents are doing, but when you don't have a clear answer for what they're doing, you need to rely on your own game plan. So if you don't have a game plan, not great, right? So step 1 needs to be able to fight against the rest of the meta. Step 2 needs its own game plan. And then step 3, and this is, I think, the more important one for a GP, you don't need this if you're just playing your weekly event. You're going to play 12 rounds or something like that.
That's a lot. That's way more than we've done in the ceremony.
You need something that consistently performs.
Yes.
So that means one of 2 things. Your deck either needs to have a high density of the things you're trying to do. So an aggro deck does that. It has a high density of its game plan. So it doesn't need deck smoothing or hand smoothing. Or you need to play a deck that will allow you to smooth over your hands. So that way you aren't getting destroyed by RNG. You either don't care about RNG because basically everything in your deck does the same thing, or you have ways to manipulate your RNG into your favor.
That's a good tip.
Right? And those are the 3 things that I look for in a deck. If those decks can't do all those 3 things, I'm not going to play that deck.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys tend to look for in the comment section down below when you are picking a deck to be competitive with, or just something you like to play.
Yeah. So that's sort of I'm very excited. That's why I'm speaking so fast.
I know. We like with when we got the news, we were like, oh my God, can you believe it? We're so excited.
Yeah, so I'm into. I don't know what I'm playing yet. And that's what this month is going to be. And then after this month, I'm going to lock in on something.
Yeah, you're gonna knuckle down on
Yeah,
a choice.
I'm gonna start testing stuff. It's not to say that I'm gonna play only that deck. So if you end up playing me 1,000 times on Discord and you notice that I'm playing a couple different decks or something, I am purposely maybe misleading people. But at the same time, I
do
might
you not want to like. Should we not reveal it?
I don't want to
after?
reveal when I'm playing. But
we won't tell you.
But I do want to lock in on it. The answer though right now is I can't reveal it because I don't know what I'm playing. But if I end up playing other decks, I might be playing other decks with the idea of like, how does this deck function? I need to find its weakness,
Right.
Even though I've locked in on a deck myself.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's why it's important to kind of try everything, and then you will want to like kind of lock in your selection more or less.
Yes.
Which is why I've been slowly but surely working through all the archetypes, and during our versus match, I'll be, really giving control everything I've got.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that as you're running through all these archetypes, Tiffany, I'm seeing that you're starting to gravitate towards various, and that's what every player does, so eventually every player's like biases really start developing in full. Like, I know you like aggressive stuff, but you're starting
Who doesn't?
You're starting to build some biases that are just not purely like push damage. You're starting to be like, well, I kind of like some amount of defensive utility, but I like this type of defensive. Like, I like using Yuki offensively.
Yes.
That's something I personally enjoy doing.
It's all very fluid right now. Still figuring it out. That's all I can say. That's my update on my selector journey.
Here's a fun thing that we're doing though.
What are we doing?
So we will be there, right? So what we're doing is we're making handouts for anyone who finds us.
Yes.
If you want a Life Burst podcast coin, with our symbol on it, we'll be printing those out, and that will be available for people to have.
So if you come up and you meet us, we'll give you a Life Burst podcast coin.
Yeah. And then if you show me on your phone, you're subscribed to, this is my plug. Show me on your phone, you're subscribed to the channel. You can get a goes first, goes second, card that we've made with art that, is going to be like Tiffany or me on it, which is cool. Like RL rigs that we're making for it.
Because we've got some ideas. I think everybody needs a Larig persona.
Yeah. And then the cool one is if you beat us at the GP,
tournament.
right? Let's light fire under people so that way they just definitely want to kick our butt.
It's mutual. I want to kick everybody else's butt. So
if you beat us, just like in the anime, we're gonna give you a coin with our L rig in it. so you can lock our L rig in a coin and take it for your own.
Yeah, we're making the coin tokens so that like they're still like card tokens, so you can play with them. They're just like, our version of it.
Yeah, it's just a little fun thing to do, and some people aren't going to want them, but I think some people might think that they're just a little fun little treat to add to the GP, because I mean that's one of the cool magical things about the GP too. It's
actually getting to meet people.
Yeah,
like from a wide, like not just who can drive 3 hours to an event.
Yeah,
or whatever.
So like it's just fun. Where plus it's Vegas.
There's a lot of fun things to do.
I feel like if we're gonna give out gold coins to anyone, Vegas is the right place to do it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which
it's
is
gonna be fun.
I realize now. There was a while I was looking at making like casino-esque chips of it, because like that's something custom you could make, but it costs too much.
We're not doing that.
So I'm not doing it. But I realize now it's probably good that we didn't do it, because giving out casino chips in Vegas is probably
shifty.
Risky.
Yeah, it's a good way to get snatched. But we're really excited. I don't know. That's really it. Like, just how excited are you?
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
It is a cool, it's going to be a really cool place to go. And for the people who aren't going to be there, like, we'll be doing some kind of thing. I who knows, maybe we'll bring the podcast thing. We'll set it up in like a hotel.
Oh god.
And just start podcasting
imagine?
and have players come by and be like, "Can I be on the podcast?" Be like, "Yeah, get in here."
No promises. That is so like far out. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's not until July, and it's currently.
I guess it'd be flying
April.
too, so we probably can't bring.
We
can't bring the
probably
stuff.
can't. We probably can't.
But who knows? Maybe we'll do something. I'm sure, record something.
Yeah.
But for those of you who can't be there and want to live vicariously through us a bit, but this is not the last time you're going to hear us talk about it, because we're going to be giving you updates on what we're doing, how our prep's going.
Yeah, we've got several months of prep that we'll be doing. And as more information on the GP comes out, we'll keep you guys updated if you're not already like
it's a good thing to
in
check
the know.
It's a good thing to check out the community page. I actually post quite a bit there. Mm-hmm. I don't do Twitter because Twitter's crazy right now. I was
we're
on
really
Twitter for a
just
little bit.
on this channel. So,
So
this is where you can find us.
definitely you can check it out from there. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be at least a fun, interesting time for sure.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to do it. I'm super stoked to see you do your first like real big live event.
Yeah, it's gonna be very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a very nervous person.
And like I get nervous during these things too. I shake, right? Like people
you
are
get
like
shaky.
people are gonna meet me in real life and be like, "Oh, cool,
a
you talk about it.
chihuahua."
You're awesome. You're I always hear you play the podcast," and I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I don't want to mess up. Hold on, stop talking to me. I have to think." Like I get the shakes every time the events happen, and I think like 10 years. I've done card stuff 10 years. It's gonna go away. It
No.
never does.
No.
Such anxiety. I can't eat before a tournament either. Like I
really?
get nauseous if I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like have to eat. I like have to have food in my stomach. Otherwise,
caffeine as well.
I'll just die.
Yeah.
Like I'll just faint if I don't have any food or any sort of like caffeine in me. I'll just faint.
Yeah, I get that. There are times where I've like gotten to my 11th round and looked at it and be like, I'm gonna cut for top 32 no matter what. So I'm just gonna concede my next game and eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
Like just be like, I need this.
Maybe we don't. do
Yeah, not
that.
this time.
Not this
time. But
12 rounds is so much, especially for like it's in a single day.
I keep saying 12 rounds. Like that's the average amount of rounds in a GP.
We don't actually know
sometimes they
yet.
split it 6 and 6.
Gotcha.
For like day 1, day 2. Mm-hmm. But we don't know any of the details.
Yeah, so wait and
July
see.
22nd is a Saturday, so there's a realistic chance that it's day 1, day
just-
2.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Sometimes they do.
I feel like they would have said that though.
Sometimes they do 10 rounds and cut to top 8, and then top 8 plays again on a smaller tournament on Sunday. Who knows?
Yeah,
like,
this is all just guesses at this point. We'll have to wait and see.
what can you guys do right now if you are just going to come to the GP but you don't have a ton of prep time? Because I think that is actually a fair amount of our audience is they don't have a ton of time to dedicate to the game. They like playing it, but they can't like constantly work on it like us, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we also have lives outside of Wixoss, but we just, we care.
It's true. It's true. I just can't turn it off.
You really can't. Like,
It's true.
you really can't.
What can you do? Well, the best things to probably do is, one, you can stay with the podcast and we'll keep giving you updates about the GP as well as testing and like how the meta is shaping up so you can make general opinions yourself.
Please make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on and participate in our community posts.
Yeah.
Because we do actually post there quite often.
Yeah. And then if you, outside of that, another thing that you can do is just start getting a feel of like what kind of deck you're probably going to play. I already said which archetypes I think are probably good to go for this event, that you've got a shot no matter which one you pick from those. Mm-hmm. So if you heard one of those ones and you're like, oh, I like playing that type of deck, maybe start working on it, playing it more often. Like another thing that you can do is just be like, what is my deck's game plan? And like plan out your turns, and that'll help you out. The next set's coming out, set 8. Next one after that, set 9. We're going to be talking about the best cards of those sets. Mm-hmm. It's worth listening into those things and maybe joining in a discussion about like these types of things. One of my favorite comments on those videos is when people are like, well, actually, you didn't say this card. And I don't take offense to when people are like, you didn't say this card, and I think it's great. I usually I say things in terms of like, we don't have a ton of time to go over every niche
Yeah, it would
interaction.
be a really long podcast.
Yeah. So when people
We kind of
bring
pare
up
it down.
yeah, when people bring up niche interactions and call out stuff they think are good.
Yeah,
that's
we
great.
look into it. Like,
That's
we
great.
test that stuff when we read it because we're like, well, maybe this is good. Like, who knows? Like, we've never thought about it before.
So those are another things that you can do, and then the last thing that you can probably do is get involved in the 3v3 Discord and the
It's really fun.
and the what do you call it Discord, the Card Garden Discord. Both of them I'm going to put on the links down below. And you can join in some tournaments, just a webcam here and there. That'll help you get stuff ready. You don't understand how big of a difference it is for like a player who's played their deck in a competitive environment at least 1 or 2 times versus someone who's gotten their deck, played in their locals 1 or 2 times, but it's not been a super competitive event.
Yeah.
And then they come in blind.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, practice is definitely gonna be key.
Yeah, we're lucky, you and me, Tiffany, because we can play a lot. We play a lot.
We do play a lot. We play at least every day.
Yeah,
At least, like,
once a day probably.
yeah, we play at least once a day. We like talk about it all the time. All of our friends think we're crazy, like, because we won't shut up about this card game.
Yeah, it's true. We definitely came into work and I was like, hey, I'm taking this day off. And they were like, well, hold on, you got to request it. And I was like, I won't be here that Friday, just so you know. And maybe the Monday. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Yep. Anyways, what else do we have?
Those are
for selectors?
those are the big things, man.
Those are the big things.
Yeah. I'm just really excited. I know how strange
It's
it
gonna be
is.
so annoying. Like, we're just really excited. Like, yeah, we get it. Like, no, but like, I'm sure we're not alone because when they had announced that, like, I kept getting like all these notifications on my phone with all the Discord and everybody being like, "Oh my god, did you see this thing?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then you like bust into the room. You're like, they announced an in-person GP.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
And
you were
I'm
like, when? And I was like, I didn't look at the date, and I had to like run back and get the date because I was just so excited when I saw the words GP Grand Prix. And the other thing too is
it's Grand Prix, right?
Is it Grand Prix? Oh God,
It's French.
Grand Prix.
No.
Grand Prix.
No.
Grand Prix.
You're just exhaling now.
Is that
It's Grand Prix.
Grand Prix? Is there a
I'm
lot
not
of,
going to talk
is
to
there
you. when you're
throat
like-
involved? Grand
No. No
Grand-
exorcisms on the podcast. I'm so sorry, everyone. Really, I apologize for that descent into madness. We're back now.
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry, that was I talked to my priest. I got rid of the problem. We're
All
good.
right,
We're good.
enough.
So
But yeah, no, it was definitely big news.
I was really
when we
excited
saw
because
it.
a lot of people who have stopped playing the game recently came out of nowhere on the Discord and was like, "When's it happening again? Maybe I could be there." And I'm like, "Yes, bring them back, bring them back."
That's actually true. Because this is a smaller game, sometimes it's hard to find communities outside of the internet. Like, it's hard to find in-person people to play with. We're a little lucky because the city that we live in is like kind of big. So we were able to like find people and also rope some friends in to the game and play with them as well. But I know that that's not a common experience for a lot of selectors out there. And that some of you may feel a little more isolated to the webcam tournaments. So something like this is actually really exciting to be able to come and like actually mingle in meet space, as my friends would put it, like in real life with some of your fellow players. Like, I really hope, like, there's a lot of people that we play with online that I really hope to meet in person.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that I really respect them as players. They seem like rad people.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet all of you guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
With that, I think that's it.
I think that's it. That's just us cooing over the GP.
May we always meet you at the GP.
May you always flip a life burst. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Bye, guys.
Bye.